Picture this. It's 1832. You're in New York City at the Bowery Theater, the biggest one in the whole country. And tonight, you're seeing the debut of something huge, Blackface Minstrelsy.
It's a beginning, right? But so complicated, fascinating, and kind of unsettling, to be honest. We're going to look at how this entertainment, well, it was rooted in racism, we can't forget that, but it was also really important in shaping American popular music.
Exactly. And it's a story full of contradictions. You'll see what I mean. A blend of exploitation, but also resilience, starting with, that song Jump Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And then how black minstrel troops came to be after the Civil War, and the impact of, all of this on the music industry even now.
It's like if you can understand these beginnings, these historical roots, you understand the music industry better today, And maybe, just maybe, you think a little differently about what you listen to.
So let's start way back in the 19th century. When blackface minstrelsy, it just blew up. Between the 1820s and 1830s, it became a core part of American culture.
And right at the heart of that, there's Thomas Dartmouth Rice, a white performer, and his song, Jump Jim Crow. Huge. A national hit. I mean, if they had the internet back then, it would have gone viral. That's how big it was. And his shows, they always had blackface. He really set the stage for what entertainment would be for decades to come.
It's just so striking how blackface minstrelsy was completely based on racist caricatures, portraying African Americans in such awful, stereotypical ways.
It's really a reflection of just how deeply rooted racism was in America at the time. And here's the irony. Black people couldn't even perform these caricatures themselves until after the Civil War.
And then we see the emergence of black minstrel troops after the Civil War, right? Groups like the Georgia Minstrels.
Yeah.
Talk about a complex situation.
Oh, absolutely. You've got black performers, and they're participating in something that's, based on these awful stereotypes. There's this tension, And these troops, they did find some success, even toured in Britain. Then you have people like W.E.B. Du Bois, really critical of the whole thing.
So it's like they're stuck. They need to make a living in a system that's not fair. But the performances themselves, they're perpetuating the harm. Was anyone trying to change things up? Like subvert the genre, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. Take Burt Williams and George Walker. They were this duo, so talented, and they used their platform to challenge the norms. They put a lot of character-driven comedy into their act, which, kind of undermined those racist caricatures that were so common. They show that even within a system like that, there was some space for resistance. To push back,
It's amazing they could do that. So this form of entertainment's everywhere, but how people consume music was about to change completely. Think sheet music.
Right.
Then, the phonograph. It's the beginning of recorded music.
Totally changed everything. Tech-wise, culture-wise. Think about it. Before the phonograph, you wanted music. You either saw it live or you bought sheet music and played it yourself. Tin Pan Alley in New York, that was the heart of it all.
And then you get Thomas Edison, the phonograph. What a game changer. Hearing your favorite songs at home whenever you wanted. Revolutionary.
Absolutely. The whole industry transformed. And one of the first voices recorded, a formerly enslaved man, George Washington Johnson.
Wow. From slavery to a recording pioneer. Amazing. And what did he record? Coon songs.
Yeah. Sadly, those songs were full of the racist stereotypes we've been talking about. But Johnson, the way he sang, his style, it really showed that recorded music could be a hit, a commercial success.
It's a strange mix, isn't it? Progress and exploitation. Johnson opens doors for other black artists, but at the same time, it's keeping those awful stereotypes alive. It's like Ernest Hogan, you know him, father of ragtime. He got famous for a song called All Coons Look Alike to Me.
And that song, it really bothered Hogan later in life. He saw the damage, the offensive stereotypes. But it also shows how people thought back then, like black audiences. They weren't seen as a market for recorded music.
Wow, ignoring such a huge group of people.
It was prejudice, plain and simple. But there were people who saw things differently. Perry Bradford, for instance. Black musician and entrepreneur, believed in the blues, really believed in it.
Bradford's key here. He wanted to prove the industry wrong, and he fought hard to get Mamie Smith, a black blues singer, a record deal.
Not an easy fight at all. The record labels, resistant. But he was persistent. And in 1920, Mamie Smith's Crazy Blues came out, and it was a sensation.
A total smash hit. It proved there was this huge demand for music by black artists, a real turning point. And this is where race records come in, a whole category of music marketed to black audiences.
Race records, the term's not great, we know that now, but it did show a shift in the industry. Black artists, they were a market. and their music was getting more recognition.
But even with race records, there were limitations, right? Black artists were still pushed to fit certain stereotypes.
Unfortunately, yeah, their artistic freedom was limited. But even with those limits, there was a lot of creativity. This is when jazz and gospel start to really take off.
It's like they were making art, even with all that holding them back. And Big Mama Thornton, she's another example, recorded Hound Dog in 1952, one of the first rock and roll songs. But she didn't get the recognition or the money. Elvis Presley, he recorded his version later, and he became a star.
It's the music industry in a nutshell, really. Even as it's changing, black artists aren't getting what they deserve. And it's still happening today. Look at the power and money. It's all concentrated in the hands of a few.
So much work to be done. We've covered a lot. Blackface minstrelsy, its impact on American popular music, and the fight for fairness in the industry. Anything else before we move on to how this all affects us today?
Just this. History isn't just facts and dates, it shapes us. The legacy of blackface minstrelsy, it's uncomfortable. But it shows us that even the music we love, it's got these stories woven in of exploitation, resilience, and appropriation. It makes you think, about the music we listen to and the systems behind it.
That's a good point. And a good way to lead into our next discussion.
Yeah.
About how all this is still playing out in the music industry today, this journey, through music history. It shows you just how much black artists have gone through, the challenges, victories.
It does. And as we move forward, it's key to see that this story, blackface minstrelsy and the music industry, it doesn't just end with race records. That legacy, it's still shaping music today. How we make it, how we listen to it, even how we think about it.
It's like these ripples from those early minstrel shows spreading out, influencing everything. Blues, jazz, rock and roll, even hip-hop.
Exactly. And it's not only the music itself, it's the power, the dynamics within the industry, exploitation of black artists, their music appropriated, still fighting for fair pay, for real recognition. It all goes way back.
Makes you think. Hasn't much changed. Throughout history, so many black artists create groundbreaking work, and then white performers take it over or get all the attention.
It happens over and over. It can be discouraging, but when you see the pattern, you can start to break it down. You have to understand the system, the history. That's how these inequalities keep going.
And as listeners, right? We're consuming music. We have a part to play too. We should be thinking about what we listen to, where our money's going, how we're supporting artists, especially those who are marginalized.
We've got to be conscious, ask questions, demand more from the industry. Who's making the money? Who's getting the credit? Are artists getting paid fairly? These aren't just random questions. They affect real people, the people making the music we love.
So we circle back to how we started.
Yeah.
How do we use this knowledge, this history, to change our relationship with music?
That's the big question, isn't it? It's about education, awareness, taking action, supporting those organizations that are fighting for fair pay for artists, finding and promoting the voices of musicians who aren't being heard, even just talking about it with friends, with family, raising awareness.
Our choices matter. When we listen, we have power. And we can use that power to make the industry fair.
Right. It's pushing for a system where artists, no matter who they are, where they come from, they're valued, respected, and paid fairly. It's a long road, but every step counts. Toward a better music scene, more just, more vibrant.
So much to think about. As we look back on this history of music, what should our listeners take away from all this?
The main thing for me is that history isn't just some old thing. It's alive. It shapes us. The legacy of blackface minstrelsy, it's hard to face. But it shows us that even the music we love, it has these stories in it. Exploitation, resilience, cultural appropriation.
And music has always been a way to resist, to change things. Even with so many obstacles, black artists, they've always been pushing boundaries, shaping genres, making our culture richer.
Absolutely. From those early blues singers to the pioneers of jazz, hip-hop, and everything in between, black musicians have given so much to American music, to the whole world. We need to recognize that, celebrate it, and see how the system so often has tried to silence them or erase what they've done.
How do we move on then? What can we do as listeners, as individuals, to make the industry more equal, more inclusive?
It starts with education, knowing what's going on, understanding the history, the power structures, how systemic racism is still at work.
And once we know, we can act. Support those groups fighting for fair pay, especially for marginalized artists. Be deliberate about the music we listen to. Find diverse artists.
Amplify their voice.
And talk about it with family, friends, our communities. Raise awareness, challenge what people think, demand better from the industry itself.
Our listening habits matter. We have to use that to build a music scene that's just, that's vibrant.
That's it. It's not just fixing the past. It's creating a future where all artists matter, are respected, have the chance to thrive.
A music industry that truly shows how diverse and rich our world is.
I think we can make that happen together.
Now, to bring this home, let's see how these forces from history are playing out in the music industry right now, today. We've really gone deep, haven't we? It's like peeling back these layers of history, but it's all connected to the music we hear every day. It is, and when you look at the industry today, there's one example that really stands out. Shows how that legacy of minstrelsy, of exploitation, is still around, the way hip-hop's been appropriated.
Oh, for sure. Hip-hop, it starts in the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
In these
Yeah.
marginalized communities. And it explodes, becomes this global thing. But that journey, well, it's full of the same stuff we saw before. Appropriation, commodification, just like those earlier forms of black music.
You see it all the time. White artists using hip-hop, and they make it big, mainstream success. But the people who started it, the innovators, the black community, they don't get the same recognition or the money.
It's true what they say. History doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. It's a little depressing, to be honest,
Yeah.
to see it keep happening. Why is the industry like this still? Why is this so hard to change?
It's about power, I think. Cultural power. The music industry, yeah, it's made progress, but it's still got these deep biases. It doesn't fully embrace black artists. Not really. Not on their own terms.
It's like they want to take black art, make it see for everyone, package it up neatly. But they don't get it, the real essence of it.
Exactly. We have to see the value in all these musical expressions, the different cultures, the authenticity, and stop trying to change them. Give credit where it's due. Make sure the creators, they're the ones who benefit from their own creations.
That's a good point. Speaking of giving credit, this digital age we're in, it's a whole new set of problems for the industry. Streaming, that's how most people listen to music now. And fair pay for artists. It's a bigger issue than ever.
Huge issue. Streaming, it's amazing for finding new music, sharing it. But the money, the royalties, for most artists, it's almost nothing. Especially if you're not, a huge star.
So many musicians, especially the ones just starting out, they can barely get by. Can't even make a living from their art.
One kind of exploitation to another, right? The technology, it's changed everything. But is it better for the artists? Not really.
What can we do? How do we fix this? Make the music industry innovative, but also fair.
The big questions, right? We need policies, laws that make sure artists get paid fairly in this digital world. And we need to support those groups out there fighting for musicians' rights, more transparency from the streaming companies. We need to know what's going on.
We can't just watch it happen again. Same story, different chapter. Keep talking about it. Raise awareness. Make the industry do better. Music's more than just entertainment. It's how people express themselves. It's culture. It's how a lot of people make a living. If they're profiting, they have to respect the creators, value them.
That's it. Music, it shows you all the big problems in society. Race, power, fairness. But it's also where we can make a change.
We've been on quite a journey, uncovered a lot. And it's not always pretty. From those racist roots, with minstrelsy, to this digital age where artists are still struggling, the music industry has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it does. Change is slow. And you have to keep fighting for justice. But there's hope. Look at the movement for artists' rights. People are more aware of the problems now. And musicians, no matter who they are, where they come from, that passion, that creativity, it's still there.
So if there's one thing you want our listeners to remember from all this, what would it be?
Think about how rich music history is, how complex it is, and how it affects us now, today. Be more aware of the music you listen to, where it comes from. Support the artist directly if you can, and talk about it with everyone, friends, family, your community.
We all have a part to play. Let's build a music industry that's better, fair to everyone, shows the true diversity of music, all those voices that make music so powerful. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep listening, keep learning, and keep working toward a better world, one song at a time.